Jasmine Crockett leaned forward, her hand gripping the microphone as the congressional hearing went live. Her words cut sharply across the room. I have documents showing financial transactions between the Trump organization and a shell company connected to Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump's husband. Going back to 2019, she said. She paused, letting everyone take in the statement. The cameras focused on her, capturing every expression. What's striking, she continued, is the timing. These transactions happened while Ivanka was reportedly separated from Kushner, yet funds continued moving between their accounts. What does that really mean? The chamber erupted. Republicans jumped to their feet, shouting. Democrats leaned in, trying to hear over the commotion. Crockett raised a folder. I have bank statements, emails, and text messages indicating this marriage may not be what it seemed. The moderator struck the gavel, but chaos reigned. Security moved through the aisles as spectators shouted. 17 seconds after Crockett spoke, a booming voice filled the room. Donald Trump had called into the hearing. This is completely false. Total fabrication. My daughter has a wonderful marriage. His voice carried anger, shaking through the speakers. Jasmine Crockett is lying. She always lies. My daughter's marriage is perfect. Better than anyone here. You're all jealous. The moderator tried to cut him off, but Trump continued. Crockett stayed composed, opening her folder. Mr. Trump, this is a divorce filing from March 2021, submitted in New York and withdrawn within 48 hours. Can you explain that? Silence fell for 5 seconds, the tension palpable. Then Trump's voice returned, quieter but firm. That's privileged information. You have no right to that. Crockett replied steadily. It's a public record. Or it was until someone paid to have it sealed. The room erupted again. Reporters typed furiously, and breaking news alerts flashed across television screens. Trump shouted, "You're attacking my family. This is election interference." Crockett remained calm. We are investigating possible money laundering through family businesses. If your daughter's marriage affects federal contracts, it's our duty to examine it. Within minutes, Ivanka Trump appeared on a competing network broadcast. She was poised, wearing a cream blazer, hair perfectly styled. Congresswoman Crockett is spreading dangerous misinformation, Ivanka said evenly. My marriage is private, and these transactions are standard business dealings between separate entities. When pressed about the alleged divorce filing, Ivanka's jaw tightened. There was no divorce. Show proof. Back in the chamber, Crockett's aide handed her a tablet. She smiled slightly. Miss Trump is denying the divorce on live TV? Should I read the case number? Republican members shouted objections. The moderator tried to restore order, but Crockett continued. Case DV 2021-0003-847. Filed in the New York Supreme Court, County of New York. March 15, 2021. Petitioner, Ivanka Trump. Respondent, Jared Kushner. On the television screen in the corner, Ivanka Trump's expression turned pale. The interviewer seemed to have someone feeding them information through an earpiece. Miss Trump, we're hearing that Congresswoman Crockett just read a case number. Can you respond? Ivanka stood abruptly and removed her microphone. This interview is over, she said, walking off camera. The interviewer looked taken aback. Crockett, however, wasn't finished. She held up another document. During the same time as this filing, $3.2 million moved from Trump Organization accounts to a subsidiary of a Kushner company, she explained. Then it was transferred again to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Her gaze met the camera directly. This isn't about a marriage. This is about federal money, taxpayer money from contracts awarded during the Trump administration. Her phone started buzzing continuously, texts and emails pouring in, but she continued speaking. The American public deserves to know if the former first daughter and her husband were using a shell company scheme with taxpayer funds while presenting themselves as a happy couple for political purposes. Republican congressman grabbed his microphone. This is a witch hunt. You're violating their privacy, he shouted. Crockett responded firmly. they held federal positions. They made policy decisions affecting millions of Americans. They cannot hide behind privacy when federal money is at stake. She flipped through more pages. Here's an email from Ivanka to Jared, dated March 10, 2021, just 5 days before the divorce filing. She wrote, "We need to separate our accounts before the audit." Dad says it's the only way. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the implication. Within the hour, Trump's legal team issued a statement demanding Crockett retract her claims and apologize. They threatened lawsuits and labeled her actions as reckless and irresponsible. Yet, Crockett held another press conference that afternoon. More cameras, more reporters, more evidence. "I have 12 additional emails, 6 recorded phone calls, and sworn testimony from 3 employees who worked for both companies," she said, pausing for emphasis. "This isn't a political attack, it's an investigation ongoing for 8 months. We've interviewed 47 witnesses and reviewed thousands of financial documents," a reporter shouted. "What pattern?" Crockett replied clearly, "A pattern of a family using marriage, divorce, and reconciliation as a financial strategy. A pattern of moving money to avoid scrutiny. A pattern of misleading the American public." Her phone rang. It was a restricted number. She answered on speaker. "Congresswoman Crockett?" A woman's voice said, "This is Ivanka Trump. We need to speak off the record." Crockett glanced at her aide and back at the phone. "I don't do off the record. Not for this." Ivanka's voice was calm but firm. "Then you leave me no choice. I'm holding my own press conference in 20 minutes and bringing all the receipts." The call ended. Ivanka's press conference took place at a luxury hotel in Washington. She arrived with 3 lawyers and stacks of binders. The room was packed, every major news outlet covering it, and social media live streams reached millions. Approaching the podium, Ivanka's expression was resolute. "Congresswoman Crockett has made serious allegations. I am here to set the record straight," she announced. Ivanka opened the first binder. "Yes, there was a divorce filing in March 2021. But it was withdrawn because Jared and I resolved our issues. That's what married couples do," she said, flipping a page. "As for the financial transactions, they were completely legal, fully disclosed where required, and had nothing to do with my father or his business." A reporter interrupted, asking, "What about the email that mentioned your father?" Ivanka's expression tightened. "That email was taken out of context. My father gives advice that's normal. It does not indicate any illegal activity." Another reporter pressed further, mentioning offshore accounts. "They're completely legal and transparent," she said firmly. "We have receipts for every transaction." She spread more documents across the podium. "Congresswoman Crockett is twisting facts to create a false narrative. This is political theater meant to damage my family and distract from her own shortcomings." Back in her office, Crockett watched Ivanka's press conference on TV. Her staff gathered around. "She's good," one aide said. "She looks credible." Crockett nodded. "She's had practice," she replied, then picked up her phone. "Are you watching this?" she asked. "Every second," the voice on the other end replied. "Send me everything we discussed, everything." Crockett confirmed. "Are you sure?" "This is going to get messy." The voice responded, "It already is. Let's make sure it's honest." 20 minutes later, Crockett stood in front of cameras again, this time with a laptop connected to a large screen. "Miss Trump showed you documents," Crockett began. "Let me show you documents." She clicked the laptop, and the screen displayed a scanned legal document. "This is a prenuptial agreement between Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, signed in 2009, mostly standard except for page 17, she zoomed in. "This clause requires that, in the event of divorce, all business holdings must be disclosed within 72 hours. And any shell companies, offshore accounts, or hidden assets discovered after divorce proceedings could result in criminal charges." She looked directly at the camera. Why would a prenup include criminal penalties unless they anticipated hiding something? The next morning, a video surfaced online. Grainy but with clear audio, it showed a man in his 40s sitting in a coffee shop. His face was partly hidden, but his voice was confident. "My name is Michael Brennan. I worked for Kushner Companies from 2018 to 2022, and I was asked to do things that weren't legal, he said, looking at the camera. In March 2021, I was told to transfer $3.2 million from one account to another. When I asked why, my supervisor said it was because of a divorce. I asked whose divorce, and he said I didn't need to know. He opened a folder. I kept copies, transaction records, emails, internal memos, everything. The video ended, but within an hour, news organizations verified Brennan's identity. He was real, had worked for Kushner Companies, and his story checked out. Crockett received a call from Brennan's lawyer. "We want to testify," they said. "Bring him in," Crockett replied. The hearing was set for the next morning. Trump's team went into overdrive, calling Brennan a disgruntled employee, claiming he was paid by Democrats and threatening lawsuits. But Brennan did not back down. The congressional chamber filled once again, anticipation high. Michael Brennan sat at the witness table, hand raised. "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" the clerk asked. "I do," he replied. Crockett began her questioning. "Mr. Brennan, what was your role at Kushner Companies?" "I was a senior accountant," he said. "I managed large financial transactions, oversaw offshore accounts, and prepared financial reports." "And in March 2021, what were you asked to do?" Crockett continued. "I was instructed to transfer $3.2 million from a main operating account to a Delaware shell company. Then I was told to move it again to an offshore account in the Caymanlands. Did you ask why?" "Yes, my supervisor said it was urgent and part of family business, and I shouldn't ask questions. But you did ask questions." "I did. I was warned that if I continued, I could lose my job." Crockett held up a document. "Is this the internal memo you referenced in your video?" Brennan examined it. "Yes, that's from my supervisor. It says, 'Move the money before the filing becomes public.' What filing?" "At the time, I didn't know. Later, I discovered it was a divorce filing." The room reacted. Republicans demanded Brennan's testimony be struck from the record, while Democrats called for immediate investigations. By evening, both Trump and Ivanka had released statements. Trump's was predictably furious, while Ivanka's was calm but firm. "Michael Brennan is lying," she said. "He was fired for incompetence and now seeks revenge." Journalists, however, dug deeper. More employees came forward. More documents surfaced. The story gained momentum. That night, Crockett appeared on multiple news shows, calm, composed, and armed with evidence. "This isn't politics," she emphasized. "This is about accountability. If you hold federal positions and profit from government contracts, transparency is mandatory." One interviewer asked the question on everyone's mind. "Do you think Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner faked their marriage for financial gain?" Crockett paused. "They made decisions influenced by money? Whether their marriage is real or not is private, but the public deserves to know how taxpayer-related funds were used." Trump called into a friendly network, his voice furious. "This is persecution. They're trying to destroy my family because they can't destroy me." But the evidence kept growing. More whistleblowers spoke up. More documents emerged. The story refused to die. 3 days after Crockett's initial claims, Jared Kushner spoke publicly on a major network, alone and without lawyers. He appeared tired, slightly disheveled. "I love my wife," he said. "We've had problems like any couple, but we're committed to each other and our family." The interviewer pressed, "What about the financial transactions?" "They were business decisions, legal business decisions," Kushner said. "Sometimes business and personal life overlap. That doesn't make it criminal. And the divorce filing?" He paused, face tightening. "We worked through it. We stayed together." "And the offshore money transfers just before the filing?" He hesitated. "That was unrelated." "How can it be unrelated if it happened at the same time?" "It just was," he said, evasive. The interview did little to clarify. If anything, Kushner appeared uncomfortable, caught, and evasive, leaving more questions than answers. Crockett called another hearing, this time with a surprise witness. The witness was a woman in her 50s, a forensic accountant and former IR specialist. My name is Dr. Patricia Hammond, she introduced herself. I've been reviewing the financial records in question for the past 6 months. She presented her findings with precision charts, graphs, and timelines, all pointing to a coordinated effort to conceal money. In my professional opinion, Dr. Hammond said, the transactions between the Trump Organization, Kushner companies, and multiple offshore accounts show a consistent pattern of financial manipulation designed to evade taxes and audits. She switched slides. And the timing of the divorce filing is significant. Under tax law, some assets can be divided during divorce proceedings without triggering capital gains taxes. If the divorce is withdrawn, those assets remain separate while avoiding tax consequences. Crockett asked the key question. Are you suggesting the divorce filing was used as a tax strategy? Dr. Hammond nodded. The evidence suggests that possibility. The room erupted. The revelation was larger than anyone had expected. That evening, Trump held a rally. Thousands of supporters gathered. He was in full campaign mode. They're attacking my family. They're spreading lies. Fake news, fake accusations, he shouted. The crowd chanted back, the energy electric, but beneath it all, doubt lingered. Ivanka appeared on television with Jared Kushner, standing side by side. They held hands, smiling at the cameras. Our marriage is real. Our love is real. Political attacks will not break us, she said. Yet the body language betrayed tension, the stiff posture, forced smiles, and the way they avoided looking fully at each other. Crockett observed from her office. Her staff celebrated quietly around her. They had exposed something real. But Crockett didn't celebrate. They'll fight back, she told her team. This isn't over. In the following weeks, investigations multiplied. The Department of Justice opened a formal inquiry. The IRS launched an audit. Congressional committees scheduled more hearings. Trump raged on social media. Ivanka stayed out of public view. Kushner hired additional lawyers. Crockett kept moving forward, gathering more documents, interviewing more witnesses, collecting more evidence. The truth was complicated. The marriage may have been real at one point, but it had become intertwined with business, money, and power. Over time, the lines blurred beyond recognition. The American public watched, both fascinated and horrified. This story was bigger than one family. It exposed how power can corrupt, how wealth can distort, and how truth can get buried beneath layers of spin. Crockett received praise, threats, even death threats, and marriage proposals, but she pressed on. 17 seconds after she dropped the bombshell that sent Trump and Ivanka into a live TV meltdown, she knew she had uncovered something real, something they desperately wanted hidden. That truth made it worth pursuing. The story wasn't over. The investigations would continue. Revelations would keep coming. And somewhere in the chaos, the truth would emerge. Jasmine Crockett had struck the match, and now the fire was unstoppable.